Hello, 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 my friends in Sasquatch Land. It is I, Chris from Discover Sasquatch, once again. Another Tuesday night. How was everybody's 4th of July weekend? Hope everybody was safe and had a great time with their families. Tonight, we have two of my very good friends from New York, and they are part of the New York State Sasquatch Organization. I believe I got it right that time. Mr. Brian Bowden and Mr. Alfred I'm gonna bring them on and have them pronounce the last name because I always mess it up. So let's bring them on. There's Brian and there's the Godfather himself.
Santa Riga.
Santa Riga. There we go. There we go.
There you go.
Hello, guys. How are you?
Good. Hanging in there.
Good, Chris. How you doing?
Good.
Got my alien shirt on for tonight.
Yeah. Thank you for
I got my NYSSO shirt on for tonight.
Yeah, I didn't get my NYSSO shirt yet.
What do I got?
Printing them.
I got Smokey.
There you go.
Oh, nice.
Only you can stop forest fires.
I'd like to say a big hello to the people in the chat. BF Bud's with us tonight. Blue Eyed Northern's with us. She's one of our moderators. Thank you for being here. Boots on the Ground with Barb. Very nice. She was my first interview. She's one of our moderators. Hello, Nana Anna. Don't forget the drawings tonight to win the tumbler. Discover Sasquatch tumbler. Everybody's entered who was in here last week. And Maria and my grandson will be here to draw the winner at the end of the show. And then tonight's prize is another tumbler with the Discover Sasquatch camo print on it.
Very nice.
Okay, so we'll get everything, all the formalities out of the way. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment, and we appreciate it. All helps the channel out, and much appreciated. So the two guys I got in front of me right here have about 93 years of experience with cryptids together.
I feel like I got that all by myself.
Yeah, seriously.
93 years. That is a long, long time.
Yep.
Many years. And the wisdom that I've gotten from both of these guys is incredible. And I'm going to let them share a little bit with you guys tonight. Who wants to start?
Big Al.
You guys want to go rock, paper, scissors, or you just want to start?
Rock, paper, scissors. Well, I just started off. My first ever encounter with Sasquatch, Bigfoot, happened in your town, a little bit up the mountain. And when I was about 10 years old, I literally was maybe 3 inches from the face of a Sasquatch. And if it wasn't for the guy that you see there in the orange shirt, I don't know why I didn't recall it. Maybe it was just fear out of fear for it. And I don't really scare too easily unless the doctor says it's a girl. But other than that, I had that experience there. And that same summer, they did have 2 eyewitness sightings by the reservoir near that place. So that's where my experience started. But I defer to Al because we've got a couple different things we can talk about tonight. So hit it, big guy.
and Brian's daughters are there at that camp now as we speak. So
now,
the next generation of Squatchers are growing up right underneath your nose.
and Larry's is right down the street from there. It's not very far. You could go over a couple ridges and mountains, and you'll be right at Larry's where we go.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So, I can't wait to come up and hang out with you guys, man. I've hung out with Pedro. We found some stuff. You know, me and Pedro went out and we found some stuff. We found some footprints and some breaks, and and I kind of was teaching him the ropes too. You know what I mean? Like he's really green, and not every little thing is a tree break. You know what I mean? Not every little thing is a structure.
right.
Just, we had a good day and we worked out. We found some good stuff, and we weren't too far. I think it was location number 2, Brian.
Right.
We were at, but not actually at our location. Maybe a little bit south of our location,
Yep.
But you know what I'm talking about, and we found, and I sent you those photographs, the ones with the images of the footprints and the break.
Yep.
So, you know, we had a good day, and he learned a little bit, and I, you know, taught him what I could. And, you know, again, I'm dying. I know Brian's dying. Everybody's dying to come up to see, hang out with you and stuff like that. And, you know, at this point, we got 5 locations going, you know, and, I was thinking about going out today and buying like a tent, you know what I mean, and an air mattress and everything else, you know, because I really want to spend the night, and I mean, we've had all kinds of experience at different locations, you know, at all of our locations, we have different experiences, but location number 1 is where we spent most of our time and had most of our events, but we've never spent the night. We stayed till, you know, the wee hours in the morning, but never actually stayed the night, you know.
Yeah, so. I mean, it was close to staying the night, but I mean, it couldn't get any better than we've had, you know. Had we stayed the night, it was pretty great experience.
Well,
and
I mean, no, our experience was off the hook without a doubt.
Yeah.
But you know what? Who knows what would have happened if we would have settled in for the night? You know what I mean? I mean, anything, you know, it's up for grabs, because, you know, in those wee hours when everybody's settled down and hunkered down and it gets quiet, you know what I mean? That, you know, Chris, as well as I do, that's when they come in and they start roaming around the camp and touching the tents and stuff like that, you know. And,
or breathing heavy where you're sleeping. And
or touching you through the tent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I hear so many people who do that, and then they have this experience that, you know, any of us would die to have, right? And instead of opening the tent and going outside and seeing, you know, it's a face-to-face encounter, they go cuddle up in their sleeping bag and pull the sleeping bag over their head, and they're afraid to go outside. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? That's what you're there for. Go outside and see what's knocking on your door, you know?
Right.
I just don't understand it, man. I just don't understand it.
Let me tell you, you know, in defense of those people that don't go outside, it's, unless you're in the moment, you know, the experience. Part of me, I agree with Al. Go out, open the tent up, like, hey, who's out here? You know, like, type of thing. But they may fear for what may happen after that face-to-face encounter, considering the fact that, you know, with what is it, Jane Goodall with the gorillas. You know, when you do eye contact to a gorilla, if they are on that ape spectrum or whatever, that could be really dangerous to a certain degree. But I agree, like, you know what? Open the tent and peek out, you know?
Now, you know as well as I do, Chris, 9 out of 10 times, what are they going to do? They're going to turn and run and hide. Right. You know what I mean? Unless they're actually rummaging through your cooler and you pop out at them from behind, you know, and you catch them there in that holy shit moment, you know what I mean? But
put that beer down.
You know as well as I do, they're not looking for that confrontation. They're going to turn and run, and then what? It takes 2 steps, and they're 20 feet away or 40 feet away, and they're behind a tree. And then once they get into the darkness, they're basically invisible, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
So
well, I couldn't do that when it happened to me. I shook for about 20 minutes. But then I had to go outside because I had to use a tree because it scared it right out of me. But I put my headlamp on, I put my head down, I ran out there and had what I had to do, and then I ran back to the tent. I shook. That was my first experience. So
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's your first experience.
Right.
How would you handle it now today?
Right.
It would be totally different, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about
question.
talking about first timers. I'm talking about veterans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a good question for you. So you were talking about Pedro and how, you know, he's learning the ropes and all that. So how about you, each of you, tell your first experience, how you handled it, and how would you handle it differently today?
Well, my experience was very aggressive and very negative. And, you know, it happened over a couple of weeks during a summer of 74 down in South Florida. It was with the skunk ape, and I was like 12 years old. And I mean, it was scary, you know. I gotta be brutally honest with you. I thought, I didn't think the thing existed, and when I seen it with my own two eyes, it freaked me out, because at one point I was, not to get into this long story because it's a long story, but I was peeking out from behind a picture window, like behind a shade, looking at it, and the sensor lights had gone on, and it was in the middle of the driveway, and it must have seen this reflection in the glass of the picture window, and it did like an Incredible Hulk kind of scream, flexed. And 12 years old, I think it spotted me, and I'm a dead man, but that's not what happened at all. I mean, it must have seen itself and thought it was another one, and then but I mean, as far as handling it, I mean, there really wasn't any other way to handle it. We were in the house, we followed it from one room to the other, we followed it around the back of the house. Over the course of the weeks when stuff happened, we jumped on our dirt bikes and we rode out to different parts of the neighborhood, and wherever this creature had just been. And we got there, as soon as all hell broke loose. We were only 2 minutes away, and I mean, the last time I seen that one, I was sitting and standing up in the back of my brother-in-law's Lincoln Continental, and my cousin was riding shotgun. My brother-in-law was driving, and we were behind a deputy sheriff's car, and he was shining his spotlight into the Everglades, thinking it was coming out of the woods, when it ran out from the other side of the street from in between homes, development, and the police car hit it. And when the police car hit it, this thing went down, and the police car stopped like it hit a telephone pole, And when this thing got back up and it limped over to the police car, my brother-in-law hit it with the high beams, so maybe we're 20 feet behind it at most. I'm sticking out of a what you would call a sunroof, watching it in the middle of the night, and this thing screamed bloody murder, and it punched this police car like a hammer punch, and the back of the car came up off the ground, and then it limped off into the swamp. At that point, the sheriff came around from the far end of the development, because it was like a 4-mile square development. And he came around, and he was taking our statements and stuff. And I mean, we were right there. You know what I mean? Like, it was larger than life. And I mean, I thought I had gone. I said to my cousin, I said, we come from the rough city streets, where we were worried about getting killed in the back alleyway, to Florida, where we're going to get killed by some monster in the woods. And that's
how would you
short. I don't know how I would handle it any different. You know what I mean? I was in the house. I was in the car. I really couldn't do much of anything. Like, I didn't duck down into the car and hide behind the back seat. I was just like, wow, this thing is like 9 feet tall. It's a monster. When it punched this police car and that car came off the ground, it was like, oh, I mean, the cop, the deputy sheriff back then down in South Florida, that was it was really, rural Florida. It was cowboy country, and those cops rode with the shotgun up front in between the seats, and when the sheriff came down to the deputy sheriff and said, why didn't you shoot it? And the deputy sheriff just shook his head. Like, nah, this shotgun's not big enough. I mean? I'm not going to shoot it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can size
I
it
don't
up
know
pretty
how
well.
I could have handled it any different. I mean, nowadays, all grown up, an old guy, an old man and everything, I probably would have went and tracked it in the swamp. I mean, we were going to put castor plasts where it passed by the house, because it was all sand and we had a nice footprint. And my brother-in-law was actually going to cast 2 of them and put them on his bar, but there was a horse ranch down the street, and they would do tours in the swamp, and they would ride right by the house. And by the time he got home with the plaster, the horses had already gone through and destroyed all the footprints. But the creature would go off at night in the swamp, where we used to hang out and ride our dirt bikes and have bonfires and stuff like that. But once it got dark, we stopped going in the swamp at night and lighting bonfires. Because when this when this thing went off, I mean, when it started screaming, it was like insane. You've never heard anything like that. Sound like the devil himself, you know?
Well, that was a little different though. Now you'd go and track it and trying to see where it's up, where it went, you know, and I mean, back
Yeah,
then,
and you know, and I think the reason why, and I don't know if this is the reason why the creature was so aggressive, but that summer there was droughts down in Florida, and there was a lot of fires in the Everglades. And my sister lives right on the edge of the Everglades, and it was pushing a lot of those creatures inland. So, you know, it was out of its element. You know, it was in the developments. But even though they were very rural, the developments, it still wasn't in the middle of the Everglades, you know, doing what it did because of the fires and stuff. So that could have been a reason why it was so aggressive.
Yeah.
I
could just picture
you were 10 years old when you
yeah.
had your experience. How would you do differently now?
Well, it was an interesting experience because it was about 3-ish in the morning. I know the counselors came back. The lights were out in the bunk. When the lights are all out in the bunk, I know the counselors are back from doing their, you know, whatever they were doing. So I had to go to I woke up because I smelled skunk, which is not unusual for the area. And I kind of had to use the facilities. So as I got up, the window is closer to where my feet are. So it's a bunk bed. So I could probably fit in the bunk bed right now. Maybe it's like 6.5 feet, you know. So my feet were right by this window. And from the outside, I did a measurement of it. It had to be at least 8 feet tall to put its head into the window, the square window. And what's interesting is it was probably leaning over. So we're looking at about a 9-foot type of creature, but its head filled the entire window. And it was weird because I know that people play practical jokes in camp. I don't know, but this had this feel that it was like tilting its head, like looking in, you know, almost scoping the bunk and like the kids that were in there. So I was nervous. I mean, I sat there for over an hour, you know, not wanting to move. And then eventually bladder takes, you know, hold of you. And you're like, either I'm peeing in my bed or I got to get to the bathroom. And I, you know, slid back. I slowly, you know, not to disturb this thing or give it any attention. And I literally did the dog in the army crawl, the dog crawl, underneath a bunch of bunks to get to the back. I just didn't want, whatever it was big, and I didn't know, you know, I don't want it to come in. That's my 10-year-old self. Knowing what I know now, I mean, I wouldn't have challenged it, but I would have been more focused on it. I would have, like, you know, kind of peeked out a little bit more. Or, you know, maybe, I don't know if I would have opened the bunk door up, but I definitely would have been, you know, looking at it. Or maybe even saying, you know, you want some food? You know, maybe making an offering at this point. The problem you have is you don't, you know, it wasn't in my head at the time that Sasquatch Bigfoot is on the East Coast. So that's why I don't think it registered. Sasquatch, as far as I was concerned, up until a certain point, was all Pacific Northwest. So I thought maybe it was like you know, practical joke or something, but I still was nervous enough, not, you know, it could have literally 2 seconds, boom, I would have been through the glass. Probably cut up, it would have dragged me off, be dead or whatever it was going to do. That's, you know, that's the worst of the scenario. But now knowing that, you know, we have a lot more sightings in our area, you know, from Connecticut, New York, Pennsylvania, you know, we do have some hot spots here, a lot of them. I probably would be more, you know, willing to investigate further. I don't know if I would, you know, slide the window. Hey, what are you doing? You know, you don't want to startle a creature like that. If it's looking in, it's looking for something or seeing what's going on, because I think they are very curious about humans. They know what humans are. And they definitely have been reported to have watched children, national parks, camping grounds. There's even reports of little kids playing with them or having like some kind of a rapport with some of the younger ones. But we're still talking about something that has the strength of at least 10, you know, human males or more that could destroy you in a second.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably would be a little bit more inquisitive, but I don't know if I would be aggressive enough to say, "Hey, come on in the bunk." Hey everybody, this is a Bigfoot. Some people would probably. I think there was a couple of people in my bunk that probably would have crapped themselves if something like that came through.
Right. We got a question from Boots on the Ground. She was wondering if you guys could describe the face and the hair of the Sasquatch that you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, on mine, it was dark, so he was in shadow. But as I described it, it looked like a giant. It looked like a combination of a monkey and a human being. There were wider nostrils, in the area. There was a brow that was a little bit more reminiscent of, like, I guess what Cro-Magnon is. There's a little bit more of a brow, but there was cheek structure. There was a big mouth. I mean, you could see the muscular movement. This wasn't like a gaunt type of person. This had muscular features to it, bigger lips. I didn't see it open its mouth. There was a lot of, like, I would say, blackish hair to it, but which would probably translate to more of a dark brown. But there were some facial features. It wasn't all hair. Like, your whole face wasn't covered. Like, you saw, like on a chimpanzee, there's always or a gorilla, there's always a little structure where it's a little bit smoother. So that's what it was like. It was very perplexing. I'm like, why is there like a giant monkey or a gorilla in my window? But I got to tell you, me being who I'm 6'1" and I'm a big boy, bigger than I've ever wanted to be. It was easily about that wide, its head. And that just translates into a very large physical, entity. Yeah. So it was big.
Mine was about, I would say mine was definitely 9 feet tall. I would say minimum of 1,000 pounds. He was black, but with the spotlights, the floodlights hitting him, he had like red tinted hair. You could see red highlights or tint or whatever you want to call it. If you go to the BFRO South Florida Skunk Ape Report 1974, Sevilla Irvin did a drawing of what I seen, and she's posted it there. And I also believe that it's on the Florida Skunk Ape Museum as well. I think both places have the total report with all the images and everything. But yeah, I mean, it looked like King Kong. I'm 12 years old, and this thing is standing in front, and I mean, it had canines because it was screaming. You could see the canines. It had, I would say, the skin was like grayish leather. It almost looked like a gray leatherish looking color from the lights hitting it, and the lights. Its eyes were red. Don't know if that had anything to do with the eye shine from the floodlights, or if that's just what it was. But he was a big boy. You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't get into this whole story, but this creature, in my experience, not only did he sneak up on a wild bronco and grabbed this bronco from behind, but the bronco kicked out and jumped out of the crowd and ran to the pasture. But when they brought the horse back, it had fingerprints in its hind quarters, like not claws, fingerprints, like where this thing grabbed it. And it also killed like a 1,500-pound Brahma bull that was up in the rancher, cattle rancher to the east of us. And he had this white Brahma bull with this big ass hump on its neck. And this thing, we heard the thing scream. We didn't know what it was when we heard the Brahma bull scream. It was just it was heart wrenching. I mean, it was just, and the rancher came out, took a couple of shots at it with the shotgun. But when we went over with the sheriff and the rancher later, the bull was the torso was just bleeding out. And the head was like 100 yards away at the other end of the pasture. And that's just mind-boggling to me how this creature could stop a charging Brahma bull in its tracks and rip its head off like it's nothing.
Yeah.
I can't even fathom how strong these creatures are. I just can't.
A great analogy though. When you said King Kong, seeing the time frame, I would be like, yeah, spot on. Very much like King Kong, like just big. I didn't see any of the canines. There was no like aggressiveness to it. It was more curiosity. But I definitely wouldn't want to see it aggressive like, he's, Alsard. I mean, what a great way to start your career in the subject matter.
Yeah, and when we originally we smelt the bad smell, my sister had 2 giant German shepherds and the dogs went crazy, and we had to put the dogs in the garage. And the next morning we asked my brother-in-law and sister at breakfast, and they said, "Oh, it's the skunk ape." And me and my cousin Anthony looked at each other like, "These people are pulling our chain." You know what I mean? There's no such thing as a skunk ape, But then when we asked the kids in the neighborhood, they were like, "Oh yeah, it comes around this time of year, down in South Florida." And we couldn't believe that it actually was real, until we seen it, because originally we were just smelling it, and
Yep.
it did some damage in that area, that residential area.
Yeah, some serious damage.
Yeah. I mean, the horse. The reason why this rancher, the horse rancher, had the horse in the corral and not in the stalls, because it was wild. They just got it from like Montana or something, and it would kick in the stalls to make all the other horses crazy. So they left it out in the corral. But this thing, now I can't even imagine this. I can't fathom this, that a 9-foot, 1,000-pound creature could sneak up on a wild Mustang or Bronco, whatever you want to call it. And how scary horses jump at every little thing. How this thing was able to creep up on it and actually grab it. Now, it was lucky enough to kick out and jump the corral. I think once it got into the pasture, the creature knew he couldn't catch it at that point. Of course, the rancher came out with his 30-30 and he started blasting away too. So that's always a sign that something is going on when the farmers are shooting at things with their guns, Back then in South Florida, everybody had a gun on the back of their pickup truck window,
Oh, that's old Grady Wilson, old crazy Grady. But,
all right, so we'll touch on the 93 years of experience again, and over all these years, you guys have gotten, I've learned a lot from you too, and I use a lot of it. And over the years, you guys got your own thing going, and you've learned a lot of techniques on how to follow these guys and how to find them. And so talking to you guys earlier in the show, you were telling me how you guys are coming out with like a little program to help people and guide people on how to approach these guys or find these guys in a safe manner. And
oh yeah, I mean you got to be safe with these things. There's some, if you listen to these shows and you listen and you follow these cryptids, I mean, there's a lot of these like feel good type of like Bigfoot sightings and stuff. You have to understand that it's not always a feel good moment. These things can be very aggressive. They are wild men for a reason. And depending where you are in the country, depending on how isolated or desolated a location is it will pretty much give you an idea of how aggressive it is. Like if you go to Grassmano, Ohio, I would highly recommend you don't go there because that thing is super aggressive. But like what we've experienced with over the years, I think that we came up with something called AIE, which stands for Active Intelligence Encounter. It's basically protocols to set yourself up for a positive encounter by going into it safely. So you start off with your intention. If you don't have the right intention going into the woods, if you think it's a joke, or you're going to like, hey, I'm going to scream like all the other idiots, and do the calls and knock on trees. Not a great way to start a relationship, would you say? You want to go in there with the positive intention of saying, I'm looking for a peaceful type of encounter. I don't mean anybody any harm, and this is how I want to go into it. So that's very important, to start off on a good footing. It's like everything else in this world. A second important part is before you go into any woods, I highly recommend you ground yourself. Now, grounding is when you get yourself, connected to the earth. There's many different ways of doing it. Some people tell you in different manners, but we find that if you can, one, use salt natural salt. It's the stuff you put on the dinner table. I prefer the kosher salt because it's more pure and there's usually a blessing associated with the kosher products by a spiritual leader. But you sprinkle some of that in your shoes. You can put it in your pockets. Another way to ground yourself is to actually using your mind's eye, where you actually think internally. And when I say mind's eye, if I say the number 22 right now, you can actually see the number 22 in your head. You don't have to see it physically there. That's your mind's eye. And we use this a lot because you're going to use your mind's eye to visualize coming out of the ground, literally like roots, and they wrap around your ankles all the way up your legs and hold you in place. You protecting you from anybody trying to enter you or exit you. And I'm talking about entering on a spiritual sense, like a possession. Another way to, the thing to do when you ground, if you want, you can envision a white golden light that comes and circles you like the light of God that protects you. And then on top of that, you envision yourself being in a bubble of this, where the outside of the bubble is mirrored so that nothing can see what's inside the bubble, which is you, and they can't track and know who you are, but you can see out. That's protecting yourself through grounding. And another thing very important is always protection. Now, when Al and I go and do investigations, be it together or separate or with a group, we always protect ourselves. The first and foremost, we use sage. We sage the heck out of us. We light the sage. We let the vapors engulf us both forward. We bring it to ourselves. We do it into our equipment in our bags. And while we're doing this, we usually go through a series of prayers. Our Father, we do ohms. We do the Michael prayer for St. Michael. I also do a prayer for travelers. It's a traveling prayer that you're asking for protection. Al does, he has a little extra touch. We do the holy oil and the holy water. He'll anoint us. Now, you're asking protection from your God, whatever your higher being is. And usually that works. And then we start with the actual protocol, the interactive part, where you're actively saying in your head, I would like to have an encounter with you. I'd like to have an experience with you. I mean you no harm, nor do I want any harm to come to me. I just want you to know that I'm a good person. I just want to have that experience. And I'm asking you for that encounter. And you're speaking that. And I'm going to use a term here that it drives Al nuts, and it kind of drives me nuts too. But it's called mind speak. Now, when I say mind speak, it's the process. It's not, a lot of people in this community say, oh, Bigfoot used mind speak on me. No, that's telepathy. When you are actively communicating without vocals, and you can send messages back and forth like a conversation using your brain, that's called telepathy. Mind speak is that inner monologue you have, like when you have a bad moment, like this is going to get bad, I got to get out of here. Or, so that's what you're using. You're saying to yourself, it's almost like internal prayers. I'm sending this out to the universe. I'm sending this out to the good consciousness of the world. You're using your conscious and your mind to connect. I'm saying, I would like to have an interaction with what they call Sasquatch Bigfoot. Please, let's have this interaction. I mean you no harm. And then that's what you have to keep saying to yourself as you go there. But we usually do it for a couple of minutes, up to 15 minutes of like a meditation type of thing where we're just like clear our thoughts of anything negative or harmful and just think of the positive thing. We're going to be walking this path. We're going to be stopping here. Come interact with us. And then finally, after the meditation is the mind speak, again, where you use, you're using your inner monologue. Just throughout the whole process, you're continually trying to contact with these creatures without saying a word, without knocking on a tree. I mean, we do, if we don't get a reaction after a longer period of time, we will go into different techniques, and we may use tree knocks or what have you. But the reason why we like this protocol is because it's a moment to be quiet, where you can take in all the stuff that's going on around you. Sasquatch Bigfoots, they use their vocalization is incredible. They can mimic human voices in all these different animals. You may be hearing what sounds like a dog or a cat or whatever, but you actually could be hearing a Sasquatch. And your initial interactions with these creatures may be a grunt, or a bird or a howl or a hoot. And then it can be followed with a rock throw, and then more rock throws. And then you can start going into other aspects like gifting certain things. But you have to start out basic, like, hey, I'm Brian. What's your name? And believe it or not, there's a lot of reports from different groups throughout the world, including indigenous people, that these individual Sasquatches do have something that they're called by, whatever that reference is. So you're trying to connect that way. And the last protocol that we use, and this is for public, there's other protocols we have for on the, I'm going to call it a professional land, but people that are really serious that we discuss off privately. But the main point after this, and the last one is called recoil and record. So when you come back, you stop for a second, you review everything that took place. Heard a noise of a bird, heard a crow, heard X, saw this. I had a feeling of this is how I felt at this moment. And you keep these notes. And every time you go out, you review the notes and see if there's any patterns of consistency. And I'm telling you, over time, not only will you find the patterns, but you'll know exactly what worked and what doesn't work. And Al and I have been using this for a long time. And we decided, you know what, we use this for other things too. I mean, these different protocols, but it's worked, and it's worked very successfully where we've had interactions where it's like a respect factor. And that's why, we've been successful with a lot of our investigations.
But before you actually get to the protocol part of the investigation, you have to find a hot spot. You have to find a good location. And I would suggest, to go out, scout locations, see what looks squatchy, what does look squatchy, look for telltale signs of them being around. And once you have found a location that you think, they're around, go back day, go back at night. Not all the time. You don't want to be a pain in the ass. You don't want to bother anybody.
Right.
But go back occasionally and let yourself, and, just sit down and let your energy calm down. Once you get this, you sit, because they know if you're in their area, they know you're there and they're watching you. And then they'll come and they'll interact, whether it's just a scout coming down to see what you're doing. Like Brian said, a whistle, a hoot, a rock throw, something, just to let you know, like, that's their way of letting you know that they know you're there.
Right.
Once you establish that communication, that they know you, now they're there, you go and you continue this communication a little bit at a time, baby steps. And then you start doing, you may start gifting. I like to leave toys. I leave marbles. I leave whistles. I leave stuff like that, bells and stuff like that. And, in the middle of the night, I don't put these things that far away from us, maybe 15, 20 feet. And we'll be sitting there just nice and quiet, sitting there, just listening to everything we hear going on around us. And all of a sudden you'll hear, sounds like two glasses knocking each other. It's the marbles. They got it in their hand and they're shaking them, and that you put those marbles 15 feet away from you. That's how close they were. You know what I mean? And that's how you establish communication. Baby steps. There are other techniques we use to bring them down, bring them in. And there have been times when everything we've tried didn't work, we threw everything against the wall to see what would stick, you know what I mean? Yeah. And, we do the whoops and we do the screams and we do the tree knocks, but at our locations that we go to, I believe they know our scent. They know when we're there. And, then if we do one or two of our little techniques and they know immediately who's doing that. Hey, those are our guys, let's go see what they're up to, and then we go and we establish communication, and we go through the protocols like Brian said, and we're really trying to establish this mental telepathy communication, and then at the end of the night we'll leave them some gifts, whether it's a little bouncy ball or something like that, and and they'll come in and they'll take those gifts, because and then when we'll go back, we'll find gifts to us.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's a quartz crystal stone, deer bones, a deer skull with antlers on it.
Feathers.
We've had turtle shells upside down. They left us turtle shells with like 2 or 3, I don't remember exactly. What the hell were those things? Moles in them.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't take that stuff because I don't bring anything dead home with me, whether it's a skull but then we'll go back, and we found like the turtle shell one time was turned over with feathers in it. I don't know what kind of feathers they were, what kind of bird it came out of. I couldn't tell you, but I mean, just there you go. I mean, we get all kinds of gifts, and we leave all kinds of gifts. Now, I'm not particularly a food guy. I don't want to be associated with food. I'd rather be associated with toys and balls and stuff like that. I leave. Here's an epiphany I had this year. I'm gonna spill the beans on this one. Chris, you know this because we talked about it. I hung up a little yellow string, and when I went back, I left that little yellow string for them. When I went back, they left me a little yellow golf ball. Where they got it from, I have no idea. I'm in the middle of the woods. And you know what? I left them an orange string. They left me like an orange lacrosse ball or something, And then I put 2 and 2 together, and I said, you know what? These creatures can see in color. I believe, there you go. Yep. I believe that they can see in infrared, and maybe even ultraviolet. I'm not sure, but infrared for sure. But the thought never crossed my mind that they actually see in color. And then I reached out to some old timers that I pick brains from, and I was like, "Is this just a coincidence?" And it's like, "Oh, congratulations, Al, you just graduated to another level." Yeah, because there's the skull, and they left me the skull. I wasn't going to take. I left that little rock on top of it, that little quartz crystal stone on top of it, because I'm not bringing a dead skull home. You know what I mean? But
yeah, I mean, you get a skull like that, and it's kind of like, well, we went from string to a skull. Like, well, what's happened? Because we don't know what the message is there.
And the skull still had a membrane on it too, so it was like it was a fresh kill, and. Right. I'm not bringing anything like that home. My wife would kill you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But we were talking about that last week when I had Larry on. I left a vertebrae out at one of our areas, and the next day we came and there was a deer skull at the base of the tree in replace of the vertebrae. So we took the deer skull up to Larry's and left it on the rock, and 2 weeks later they took it back, and we never seen it again. So we actually re-gifted what was gifted to us. So
and I think it was you, Chris, who told me that they weren't a big fan of the color blue or something like that. Was it blue, or was it you who told me that?
They like the blue. I don't think they like orange.
Oh, okay. Well, I hung up a blue string, and when I went back, that string was in knots. And you said they did the same thing to your string. They tied it in knots. Yeah.
That was so cool when they tie it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling,
It's really impressive.
I can't tell you how many different color strings I put up already. You know what I mean?
But what's amazing about this is, and I'll be brutally honest, as an investigator for 40 plus years, I get giddy like the first time, like a school kid, when I'm like, oh my God, we got this result. This is great. It's still. You got to understand something about this whole entire subject. As far as I know, and I think as far as everybody knows, everybody has a theory on these creatures, okay? But nobody has a physical creature. So Al and I have always come up with the philosophy of share our evidence, put it all out there raw, then we'll review it because we want other people to get involved. I mean, we may miss something. It's kind of like editing your own work, but we always, each of us have our own hypothesis. Then we always have these conversations, and we're like, oh, I can see where you're coming from, and Al will say the same thing back, and whatever. But if you don't keep all the theories in place to say the human flesh theory versus the interdimensional theory versus Gigantopithecus versus whatever, and you're just putting yourself in one camp versus the other, you're not being a researcher or an investigator. You have to accept everything until someone comes up with a physical specimen of a Bigfoot or a dogman or whatever. And as far as I know, no one has one of those. Maybe in a dark government basement someplace, they got 3 Sasquatch locked up and they're using them because of what they can do. But until then, I've seen too many fights with people. I'm just suggesting keep it in the back of your head, because you never know you're going to meet somebody, another investigator, or have an experience where that's going to go, oh my God, that they're right about that.
Oh yeah, I can't tell you. Even in this day and age, I still have epiphanies, and it just blows my mind. You would think, all these years of investigating and researching, and nothing's going to surprise you. And yet, man, I get one epiphany after another. And this last year, I guess with the COVID and stuff, everybody's had a lot of time on their hands, and I've had a couple of epiphanies. And like I said, I reach out to my go-to guy, who's an old timer, and I run everything by him, and he'll just starts to laugh, and he says, "Oh yeah, absolutely." Yeah. He doesn't tell me anything, He waits for me to experience it and tell him, and then he'll just he'll say, "Oh yeah, that happened to me," and then he'll tell me where and when, and he'll say. But I got a question for you, Chris. You told me that you've been out a couple of times in the woods and you've had some experiences that you couldn't explain. What were they? Because I'd like to hear about them.
Yep. Put the host on the spot.
All right. Well, I'll just put it this way. I'm boots on the ground, and
we all are.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'm not saying you're not. I'm just saying I'm boots on the ground, and I let the evidence base my judgment on what's going on. Now, if I see something in the woods, it happens. You know what I mean? You cannot disclaim it. You cannot say that. I seen a blue thing that flew across the ridge in Missouri, and it looked like a bird. It looked like a phoenix, but it was tiny.
Wow!
And it flew. It was amazing. Like I got my hair sticking straight up.
Cool.
And it just floated, and it floated down the ridge, and it was just big. It looked like a little tiny blue phoenix.
Day or night. Day or night.
That was night. That was like 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow. Awesome.
So it was lit up.
It was lit up. Yeah. It was lit up. It was like a blue phoenix, but it was the size of a pigeon.
Wow.
And it was floating.
Probably a big boy coming from that.
Yeah, I don't know what that was. I mean, that was crazy. What are some of the other things?
How about up at Larry's? What have you seen up there that you can't explain?
I see the light in the video that we got. I can't explain the light at the shredded tree. I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. What is that? What there's in that face that's in between we showed last week in between the branches on the same night. What is that light? Nobody has been able to tell me what that is yet. I've heard that it was sap from the tree that moved 6 feet across the tree and lit up in the middle of the night. I heard it was the moon. I heard it was Jupiter.
St. Elmo's fire.
Right. I seen a something blue at Larry's one time. I even caught it on film. Well, I talked about it on film. Caught it at the corner of my eye.
What did it look like, Chris?
It was just like a blue flash.
Right, blue flash, right.
Yep. Let me tell you something.
Go ahead, tell them something.
Here it is. So, early on in our investigation, we were able to meet some people in the Hudson Valley that had experience with them. And they use a term, like I said before, mind speak. The Bigfoot was talking to them. And I'm very courteous, and I believe that people believe what they believe. Okay? I can't discredit someone's experience, and if they believe something, they believe it. However, I wasn't of that belief at the time. So we said, oh, nice people, very interesting, but I don't think they have, they have the 6-pack, but without the plastic thing to hold it together, mind speak, whatever. So, and then all this talk about interdimensional stuff happened. Now, I want to preface that when I was going to school, I started studying physics, engineering, and I loved astronomy. So I did little astronomy and stuff. So I was thinking about going into that. I've definitely studied a lot of sciences, but realizing you can't make money off of it, I had to stop and I went into a different direction, but I still always loved this stuff. Here's the thing. Until one night when in our primary location, until I had that experience where this creature who was definitely within 20 feet of us, Al, no, like easy.
Man, it was, I would say 10 feet the max. Yeah.
Went from point A, which is where we are, to point B, which was 2 miles down at the end of the pond.
3 miles, easy, yeah. 3 miles away.
In a second, in a split second. That was the moment where I said the only way that could happen is if this creature was able to travel, and I'm going to say it, interdimensionally. Okay? It has to open up a portal to go from point A to point B. This is why a lot of times these creatures are very elusive. You'll see them on certain things, and then the next thing you know, they're in a different direction. You're like, how'd they get there? And so I started going, maybe they are interdimensional. Maybe they have this innate ability to do it. And I explain it like this. If you came up against an octopus and you never knew what the hell an octopus was, and you watched it change color, and you watched it change, structure, like mimic whatever it was, you would like, what the heck is this magical creature? But it's an innate ability of this creature. I believe Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them, has the ability to change its form to travel interdimensionally. And in the process of changing from physical energy, physical space, flesh and blood, into whatever you need to change into to travel into an interdimensional place, it's a transfer of energy. And hence you get lights, you get blue flames or birds or phoenixes flying. You get all these different types of changes of energy or light sightings. That's why I think that when there's a correlation between Bigfoot, Sasquatch sightings and what people are calling UFOs. I do not believe that UFOs and Bigfoots have anything connected except that they both travel the same interdimensional space. So if you're traveling from Hartford, I'm traveling from New York, we're both going to Philly, we're all by train, we're going to be pulling into the same station. And that's exactly what this interdimensional highway is. There are certain points where they can travel and they see each other like, hey, Fred, I'm going to work. And then they come out. And that's why I think a lot of these sightings, when you see these lights, be it blue or white or red or orange orbs, I think what you're actually seeing is that creature being between the interdimensional and physical dimensional space. And that's why you're capturing it. That's just my theory. I can't prove it yet, although I've seen pictures that people had where you see the physical creature and then you see a flash over a series of pictures and then it disappears. This is what it does. And that's why I think those blue lights that you saw are really important, and it's not sap.
And let me just rewind that a little bit, Chris. The night Brian is talking about, we were up on a high ridge with a lake to our right, to our west, and a swamp to our east. And something walked over to us, and we heard it. First, we heard it on our parabolic mic. Bipedal, heavy, boom, 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 boom. Then as it got closer, below the ridge, maybe 50 feet below us, we could hear it walking without the parabolic mic. Did 3 large whoops that vibrated up our leg and reverberated in our chest. Okay. Did two or 3 knock rocks. I answered it with a couple of tree knocks. Then it answered me back with a couple of tree knocks. And then It, after I don't know how long it was there, decided to come charging up the ridge line. Okay, now it's coming up the ridge. It's a quadruped. You can feel bada boom, bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. Now I'm at this point, I don't realize that Sasquatches do bluff charges. You know, I know bears do them, but I didn't think Sasquatches did them. You know, but this thing is coming, and it's coming, and you can hear it come up the ridge. It's the fall. It's Halloween. The woods are littered in leaf litter. Just you can hear every little step. You can hear mice is under the leaves walking around. This thing is coming. Bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. We set up. There's 3 of us. We set up in like a triangle thing. All we have is pepper spray, survival knives, and some machetes.
Yeah.
I don't think in my mind that it's a Sasquatch coming up the ridge, even though it just gave us 3 giant whoops and, you know, a rock knock. And then it comes right up to a stone wall that was literally 6 feet away from us and stops. Just
Cold.
Never comes over the wall. Okay. And then Brian hears, what was it, like the 3 whoops at the other end of the lake or something, whatever it was. And we never heard it leave. We heard it charge up the ridge on all 4s. Yeah. But we never heard it walk back down. We even jumped over the wall with all different kinds of night vision cameras and a 1500 luma flashlight. We lit those woods up. We lit those swamp up. We, you know, even if it would have jumped off the ridge into the swamp, we never heard a splash. We never heard nothing except for those 3 whoops at the other end of the lake seconds later. Yep. Where did it go? Where did it go? I mean, it seemed like it was running up that ridge in slow motion. You know, when you're at that moment, you're experiencing that moment of time slows down and you hear every little crackle of the leaves and bada boom, bada boom, bada boom. And you don't know what the hell's coming. I'm thinking it's either a black bear coming over that wall or a mountain lion.
Cat.
One of the 2.
Cat,
yeah.
But you know, and Al and I are both real seasoned woods guys. You know, we've been in the woods most of our lives. We're not, you know, we're not just city folk. And so we know what we're listening for. We know what the dogs shut up that were like miles away that were barking. They just stopped. And when that happens and you start feeling the pressure, you know stuff's taking place. So I just wanted to preface by that. You know, we're not inexperienced. The other party that was with us, I can't say the same. He was running for his life. We had to stop before he got killed. And all we did was we formed up on a triangle. I was in the point, I was at the right, and I had my machete out and I'm ready. Like, I got no place to go, so it's fight or flight. And I can't run in this thing, so let's go. And it just stopped.
Yeah, and I mean, I tell you, you know, we experienced so much that night. It actually ended up throwing before it charged the ridge. It was so frustrated that we wouldn't leave, you know, that it threw a rock over the trees into our camp. It rolled down and hit Brian's chair. It was like the size of a bowling ball.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure if he wanted to hit any of us, he could have hit us without a doubt. But it was just telling us, it was so frustrated. But every time Brian or our camera guy Bill would say, "I think it's time to go," I would say, "No, not yet, not yet. Let's just hold out a little bit longer. Let's see what else is going to happen." Because I just felt like my gut feeling, I'm not psychic by any stretch of the imagination, but my gut feeling kept telling me there's more to come. And, you know, I never felt that our lives were in danger. If that would have been the case, we would have packed up and we would have got out of there, you know, like there's no tomorrow. But I never felt that. But, I mean, the stuff we experience, you know, it's real. You know, we're not in the middle of the woods dropping, you know, acid and tripping, you know. Yeah. Those days are over, you know. But those were the 70s.
What do we tell the family when we come back home? What story are we going to make up while we're here? Yeah, we got bum rushed by something, some train thing coming up the thing. And nobody makes these stories up for nothing. You tell the stories the way they happen, and people can either accept them or they can't.
But
I mean,
yeah,
My wife doesn't even believe in Bigfoot, okay? But when I come crashing through the door at 3 o'clock in the morning, bouncing off the roof, waking her up out of it, telling her what the hell just happened, because I can't even believe what happened. You know what I mean?
right.
She sits back and says, "Okay, you guys definitely experienced something." You know?
right.
Yeah.
You experience something, but it's kind of hard to, when you're in that moment and it's all going down, you don't understand. Like, prior to this entire interaction, there were rock knocks and tree knocks away from us on the other side of this. We were at this one point where there was a cliff on, water to this big lake, and it was separating us. And there was something on the other side that was, was signaling, and something on our side was signaling and moving. And I came to the conclusion that the reason why there were 3 whoops that took place, because there was 3 of us. And I said, this thing was scouting. They wanted whatever was on the other side to come over here, but it said whoop, whoop, whoop. Like, don't do it. There's 3 of them, and they're not going. Take the long way home,
Right.
And it wasn't until months later that we realized where we were camped. Only how many yards was it? 50, 100?
No, it
No
wasn't
more.
even. It was 25 yards.
You
Yeah,
know,
35 yards.
We caught a den. There was a den there. And I mean, I don't know, Al, I don't know if you sent those pictures in, but I mean,
No, I didn't send the den
Okay.
pictures in, but no.
I mean, there was literally a den there. And if I'm gonna try to send it to you actually as we speak.
If
I'll
you want
forward
to
it to
show
you.
the pictures of the giant stone Karens,
Yeah.
because that's like our first location, and we had we've had a lot of experiences there, and we actually were told by our team psychic that it's a Native American burial ground, and it may also be a Sasquatch burial ground. It's sacred space, you know what I mean? And the energy there is just off the charts. It's just so calm and mellow and interesting, and like you could sleep out under the stars there, and I guarantee you nothing would ever happen to you when you're inside this sacred site, as we like to call it. Yeah. And these stone Karens, they go around in a circle, a giant circle, like say 100 yards. That's what we believe may be a gravesite as well. And
out of respect for these beings, I would love to use a GPR, ground penetrating radar, just to see if something's there. But I would never unearth the body there, because I wouldn't want anyone in my family's body to be unearthed just because they don't know what humans look like. Look, I'd love to get some great proof, and but there's right and wrong how you go about it, and who knows? It could also be, it could be indigenous, tribes that buried people there too, and that were, had a relationship with these creatures. Because where our location is, there's always been story after story of what we call high strangeness, or the sightings of this creature that in the area.
It's definitely, there's no doubt in my mind that at one point it was a Native American burial ground, because we did an experiment one night where we were running Native American ceremony music, and we had a digital voice recorder going, and we had a IR camera running at the different ends of the circle. And we were running this Native American music, and I was taking pictures at a 360 all around all night long, and I wasn't getting anything in my pictures. And at one point, after the Native American ceremony that we played, I got tons of orbs with faces in them. Not only did that happen, but on the digital voice recorder, you can hear the ceremony we were playing loud and clear. It's definitely the ceremony that we were playing. But on the IR camera, it didn't record the ceremony that was playing. It recorded what sounded like a real Native American ceremony going on around us.
Yeah, it's different.
I mean, it's just mind-boggling. Just mind-boggling how the two microphones set up at two different frequencies. One caught the tape we were playing, and one caught something that we didn't hear audibly. And when we caught that Native American ceremony going on around us, that's with the photographs I caught. All these orbs all around us that were not there all night long with faces in them. Mind-boggling. Just
Yeah.
there was actually a gentleman who came with us who's like an alphabet agency kind of guy, and he came to our evidence review, and when he heard the Native American ceremony on the IR camera, he almost fell off his chair. He couldn't believe that it was going on at the same time.
Right.
I mean, it sounded like so many different drums and so much. It was just, I mean, it sounded better than the recording we were playing.
This but this also goes back into, again, when we get into the quantum world of physics, you know, and the fact that you're converting electricity, or because we're made from electricity, we have electricity going through us. We are our own system. But if you're able to take your energy, and I think these creatures use infrasound to create to affect the visual spectrum and the infrared spectrum, and use it as like almost cloaking ability to distort what people are seeing, because they can do that. Just think what they can put onto an electronic chip, or if you went the old school, remember the old cassette tapes? It all works on magnets and electric. So it's you're using electricity or electronics to put a mark on something. This is how I think it's possible. This is how spirits, you know, if you're in the ghost realm, are using that, you know, that electricity to affect the other, you know, devices that most people use for them. There needs to be more investigation into that side of it, in my opinion.
And I've done a lot of research on the ultrasound and the light spectrum frequencies, and there are frequencies where they cross over one another, and when they do, that sound vibration, that frequency will blur out the image of the light spectrum image. It will distort that light spectrum. So, you know, I dug deep. I had to find out if that was possible. And, you know, I'm not a researcher per se. Brian does more researching than me. I'm more of a field investigator, boots on the ground, experiencer kind of guy. But when Brian brought that theory up, I said, you know what? I'm going to research it for me. I want to see if one frequency can distort another, you know, and sure as shit, it actually can.
Yeah, and just for the record, I mean, you know, it's, if I have a problem or I have a theory on something that's physics related or, you know, molecular related, I am known to contact people at universities. I've contacted several people at the University of Massachusetts, Amherst, about it. I haven't gotten up the stores, you know, Connecticut, but I will go and try to find because professors and these doctors of these sciences are very accessible, actually. They may like, well, you're not a student. I'm like, no, I'm not a student. I'm an investigator of this phenomenon, but this is what takes place. Can I ask you, what do you think from your studies, what it could or could not be? And after they get through the shock of you're investigating something that supposedly doesn't exist, they're pretty open about, well, on a principle level, they'll tell you what the principles of physics are. But, you know, and I try to relay it to Al, and Al and I have these conversations that they alone could be podcasts, you know. We always talk about it.
He's always saying,
this.
We got to record these conversations.
But there's also things in there that probably get us in a lot of trouble. You know, and this is what you got to do. Like, just like Chris, like, you know, you inspired us with the DNA kits. You know,
absolutely.
I literally went out and I bought test tubes, and I'm buying, you know, all these different things so I can, you know, when we have these samples, we can get it done. You know, it's very important. What I love the fact that, you know, through our friendship and our interaction, and I think we were all meant to meet. Everybody helps everybody in many ways, maybe directly or indirectly. But as long as you know, I hear what you're saying. I see your evidence, and I'm like, oh my God. And I'll come back to Alan. Remember when we had ba, ba, ba? Well, Chris just showed this. I check it out and be like, oh my God, that there's a connection there. And it all helps. And that's what, in my opinion, if you're going to be a researcher and investigator, we like to share. We don't keep any of this stuff hidden. The problem lately, though, and I'm going to say it straight up, is, and this has only been this year primarily, there's a lot of people now that are coming out of the woodwork and trying to get your information, and a lot of people that are taking stuff that you worked your ass off for, and they're claiming as their own. They're stealing. And like, look, we're very, like, hey, just give us some credit and you can use the research. But they're blatantly stealing stuff. They're taking some encounters and stories. I mean, I've heard stuff on some of these shows, and I'm like, that's Al's story. What the hell is this? And I tell him, and goes, holy crap, that's my story. It's unfortunate that we have people like this in the world, but this is why some of us that are tighter than others, we got to keep this stuff a little bit more close to the vest. And unfortunately, we have to be a little bit more vague now. It's not only for the safety of ourselves and the research, it's the safety of the people that go out there. Because there's some yahoos now. I mean, like, look at Oklahoma. They put a bounty on Bigfoot. I think it's the stupidest thing on the planet. They're going to be people killed trying to, get whatever bounty it is for this. But there are also going to be innocent people, researchers and investigators that are on just at the cusp of having a great gifting moment or a meeting, and it's going to destroy it for everybody.
All right.
Just my 2 cents.
Yeah,
Sorry
Oklahoma, the stories that come out of Oklahoma are just incredible.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all in through that areas down there, through the Bible Belt there, they must just have colonies and colonies of them, especially in the Ozark Mountains. There's big stories, a lot of stories.
A lot more. I'm going to go with a lot more, land and a lot more food and water that's untouched. I mean, you get to our area, even though where you are in Connecticut, it's more rural. It's still, there's a lot of city element there. But I think that's also the reason why they may be a little bit more open to having an interaction with you.
Right.
But you get in some areas, I mean, the stories of the Yeti, abominable snowman. That thing is vicious. All the Tibetans will tell you, you stay away from that. It is very aggressive, and it will kill you. It's just what it is. Just got to be careful.
Right. Lockbeard just commented, said Oklahoma didn't put the bounty out. The bill didn't pass.
Oh, great. Thank God.
Awesome.
I haven't been paying it. There's someone else in there.
Well, that's all right. Things change every day,
yeah. Well, someone put a question when you were talking.
Okay.
They asked if we've ever taken a meteorite into the woods on an investigation and try to find portals. We got something better than that. It's called a Geiger counter. And believe it or not, there, through certain research, when portals start to open up, there seems to be a radioactive-ish type of anomalies that take place. So,
yeah,
but I do have a meteorite on me, and so does Al.
Yeah, absolutely. But there has been evidence shown that radiation levels do rise to an unsafe level, let's call that, because we've been in the middle of them when portals are starting to open up or have opened up. And we've been in a few of those pretty interesting what comes out of them, but
a great example is if you're a fan of Secrets of Skinwalker Ranch this season, they brought this rabbi in and he did this portal opening.
Yeah.
And you can see it. And I'll tell you, if you go to Bronxville Paranormal Society on YouTube, there is a video of Al and I in a stone chamber, and these stone chambers pockmark throughout New York State into Connecticut and New England. And I believe that we opened up a portal in there, and you'll see like this purplish, dark, really cold spot starting to develop right in front of you. And I think at one point something peeked in. I don't know if I got it on my FLIR, but it's very interesting.
Yeah, and we take all our baseline readings before we start, and Then we watch, we take the readings as stuff is happening, and then when it's all said and done, we take more readings to see where it began, where it peaked, where it dropped off at, and again, it's a lot of scientific kind of data, but all of this stuff is what helps you dissect what you're looking for, and
right. And I just want to be clear, because someone that you guys may know, I mean, it's there's another host of a show, Dave Scott, and he always yells, "Oh, the science. These aren't scientists." And I'm like, look, I studied science. I'm not a scientist, but what I'm trying to do in my research is to get to a point where if we can replicate something that works, it's kind of being an experiment, and we could put that forward to people like, hey, this has worked, try it. That's what science is. Science is doing an experiment, getting a result, and then writing about it so that someone else tries it. And if they replicate it, then it's science. We have notes upon notes upon notes. I mean, a lot of audio discussions, none of it's transcribed. I mean, we can't just sit there for hours. Our wives will kill us, or our kids will kill us.
Yeah, Dave's pet peeve is the word science drives him nuts. All right, so let me rephrase that. The data we collect.
Well, I just want to explain that we are trying to do a little more scientific method. It's just that's the easiest term to talk about.
It's an umbrella word that describes the data that we're retrieving and what we're experimenting with. Yeah.
Well, data is evidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Period. You're not sitting around a campfire saying these guys travel through portals and this is what happens. You guys are getting the stuff and testing the theories, testing your theories, and trying to make it happen. And and my hat's off to that. You guys are just like I said. You're not sitting around a campfire saying this is what's happening and they go through portals and that's the bottom line because they told me through Mindspeak or whatever. You guys are actually testing your theories out, and I think data is evidence, and that's the key to this whole thing is evidence.
Right, and that's what you do.
Gather, that's it.
I mean, I love the way you conduct. You do the same type of stuff. It's really funny when I watch your videos. I first watch it one way, and then I'm like I zoom in. I try to get in a bigger screen because there's a movie called Finding Jay with Jay Pachochin. He's a great guy, and I watched it. Well worth it. It's everybody's like, oh, this sucked. You didn't find a big. You're missing the point. He did an excellent job on this. There was one point in that where Jay's standing in front of a tree and it's daytime, and the next thing you know, the tree's bending and they're hearing these noises. And from my opinion, I told Jay, I called him up, and I'm like, you got to go look at that video again, because I think you have a Bigfoot seriously standing in front of you, and it's cloaked. And because trees don't bend by themselves. Maybe in Disneyland they do, but in real life in Wisconsin, they don't. So something has to be putting pressure, applying on it. And with the noises, the correlation between that and the bend and the scent that started coming, I'm thinking there is something literally standing on that tree. So, and there was a little bit of a distortion to it. So,
right.
Or behind a tree, pulling the branch down. Something.
Well, they were throwing stones at him the same time. That was his buddy was with him. They were walking that dirt road, and the stones are flying out of the woods at him, and that tree is just it's shaking, and that's a great program. I mean,
that's my point. You had situations like that in your video, Chris, where you have to look at stuff, and when you do what we do, you review it and you see certain things, and then of course you'll make note of that and you'll put it out there, and then I'll look for it. But I also look for some things that you never, you may have missed. When Al sends me in, deep, like check this photo out. We were doing some, it started with some gifting in one spot. I blew that thing up and I went through every square inch and I said, you got a Bigfoot in that picture. Right. And he's like, what? And I blew it up and I circled it and I sent it to him. He goes, holy crap.
Yeah, I sent that to you too. I sent you the little one and the big one too. That was the big guy up on top of the hill.
Yep.
Let me see if I can find it.
That's not pareidolia either. It's just not, because I'm trying to.
Well, this one's in the shadows. This one I thought was pretty good.
That one.
that's the big guy. Yeah,
Yeah.
You can see his brow ridge. You can see the eyes.
Yeah,
And the
Yeah.
conical head. You
Yeah.
can see the conical head on that.
Yeah.
But again, you know, people are
he's a
going to
big
look.
boy.
People are going to look at that, and they're, you know, you're going to
Now,
get.
let me tell you something. I looked at that photo probably 1,000 times with Al, and this is why we put our evidence out there raw, people.
I'll put it back up.
That was caught by a third party when Al was doing an interview with somebody. He referenced where the stuff is, and I literally went back to the website because I control it, and I opened that photo up. And I'm like, how did I miss this? How the hell did I miss this? And in all seriousness, it is clear as day if you really look at it.
And it's funny because when the guy messaged me, he said, I was listening to your show and I found this on your site. And when he sent it to me, I thought for sure it was Photoshopped, because if you blow that picture up to the whole picture, there's like 100 different orbs in that picture, all different colors with faces on them. Right. And we were so focused on the orbs that we didn't even see the big guy under the tree watching us. But I think the orbs were there because the big guy was there. But when he sent me that, when he circled it and he sent it to me back, I went to my original camera. I'm the one who took that photograph. I looked on my camera, my SD card, and I looked at it, and sure as shit, it was there. And I was like, how did we not see this? But that's the great thing about fresh eyes, you know? It's just like someone who writes a book. You need an editor to edit the book, because you know what you wrote in your head, but you may not be the same thing on that page, you know? Right. So, fresh eyes are, I mean, and it's not the first time somebody has done that for us. They've sent us other stuff over the years because, like Brian said, we put it all out there for anybody to look at. You know, we're not hiding any secret photographs or anything like that.
We came up with some evidence which we thought was evidence, and someone, a couple people called us on it. They said, no, I think it's, this is not a real evidence. And they put their 2 cents in, and after reviewing it, they were correct. And we admit when we're wrong. There's so many in this field that don't. Oh, I'm never wrong.
And I can't tell you, how many thousands of photographs we have that never see the light of day, because to me, if they're not crystal clear, if I can't see it, and I got the worst eyes in the world, if I can't see it, then it's not going up there. I'm not a blob squatch kind of guy. That's not who I am. I got to see something there. It's got to actually make sense to me before I put it up, But like that other photograph that I sent you with the guy up on top of the hill, the big guy up on top of the hill. And the other reason I took that picture is that I found we heard screaming that day. I heard screaming right off the top of the hill. And then I found a quartz stone in the middle of the path. And when I went up the path, I seen a footprint, looked like a footprint. I think I sent you the picture of the footprint too. Now, I don't know if it was the foot running down the hill to put the stone there, or the foot running up the hill, running away. But I just started taking photographs all around. And this is a big area of woods. And I sent them to Brian, because Brian's got a better eye than me. And he blew everything up. And he said, dude, you got the big guy up on top of the hill. But he was so far away. In the original photograph, he was like,
it blends in, and you think it's foliage.
Yeah,
you'd think it's part of the actual, like a tree down, but it's not. It's very distinct in that photo. But you have to, it's a pinch zoom. You got to zoom in on it, because you get to a certain point and pixelation comes in, and then pareidolia. There was a moment where Al sent me.
I circled it. It should be pretty easy to find.
Yeah, I can't find it.
That's okay.
Not a problem.
Not a big deal.
Al, he was in a conversation with somebody, and they posted something from the Patterson-Gimlin film, and they said, I don't know what the hell they were saying. There's a baby or whatever it is. It's something weird, and I'm like, no, no, I don't see it. They were making something out of it, and when you can see, it's clearly pareidolia. But again, people want to believe what they want to believe. I'm not here to fight with you. I said
no, absolutely not.
But another thing, if you ask for an opinion and you get one you don't like, don't be a jerk about it. Right. You know what? Some people aren't going to see what you're talking about, and I see a lot of that now. Blob squatch, blob dogman. Look, right by the trees. Right. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I
I
tell
don't think
people
so.
now, please don't ask me for my honest opinion because I don't want to give it
Yeah.
anymore.
Right.
You know, because I'm a brutally honest kind of guy. You know what I mean? And I'll tell you exactly what I see or what I don't see. And then some people are so hung up on their evidence, they think it's like the holy grail of evidence. And then when you shoot it down, they get all bent out of shape and they attack you. So I say, you know, I
And
don't
I'm not
even
doing
give
it on
my
purpose.
opinions anymore. You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You know
Yeah,
what?
we're trying to push the narrative of people bringing better quality cameras into the woods. I mean, if you're going to go out there, you might as well have something that can zoom in on something, and from two football fields away, and you get some good pictures out of it. I mean,
if I had my money,
right,
like this,
money, right.
I'd probably go with a Sony A7 II or whatever it is.
Yeah, they're incredible. The autofocus
Yeah.
on those are just amazing.
It just and zero, like more than zero lux. I use a P900.
Yeah, that's a great camera. I got one too.
Yep. And but the problem is, when Sony will capture it and it'll track it too. If you tag it, it'll track wherever it's moving, which is great. But again, when you're using long lenses, the slightest breathing or a sneeze or you're going to be off.
Right, you got to bring tripods with you. You got to have the right stuff.
But I like what Al says, old school, new school, and Al's right, because I think the reason why we have the Patterson-Gimlin film, and there's a lot of controversy about it right now, and I'm going to be talking about it later on with someone else. I don't want to even go there. I believe it's real. I don't think there was anything faked about it. There's no way you can fake muscle mass and movement way back then. It was not possible. But the reason why I think you got such great footage is because of the old school cameras that don't rely on electronics. It's old film does not rely on anything electronic. And I think if you're going to go out there, if you can, try to bring an old school and a new school.
Right.
And always take at least 3 pictures at a time. Boom, boom, boom.
And I'll tell you what, I was raised around horses. I know how horses are. I've ridden my whole life. I love horses. And what they cut out of that video most of the time is when the horses start jumping and start backing off because they're spooked. You know what I mean? And that's when Patterson gets Gimlin gets off the horse and filmed it. Whoever got off the horse and filmed it. But though, that horse did that for a reason. I've been around horses long enough to know they are so sensitive. If you're riding and they see a snake or something in the grass,
they just know.
They just start to rear up right away because they don't want anything to do with it. You know what I mean? Or if they catch a scent of something in the air, forget about it. I don't care how well the horse is trained. You can't get it to go where you want it to go if it doesn't want to go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, internal sixth sense is huge when it comes to this cryptid. How many people have been, walking someplace and they kind of get the feeling, or they've even heard maybe, like, you need to go. You get the rock throws, constant rock throws. That's them telling you, stay the hell away from here. Except for us, where would you push the envelope? Hey, it's just a rock throw. Keep going.
No, but I mean, we know. Look, we know when they've had enough and when they want us to leave. It always starts off with the little rock nose, and I mean, you can hear they come down, and it's the big guys. It's not the little guys. They come down. They let you know that they're surrounding you. You're surrounded. You can literally hear the bipedals, and they surround you, and then you start to get strafed with rocks. Of course, you never get hit. They've never hit us with anything, but you get strafed, and then you'll get the whistle and the whoop and the knock. But when they're ready and they really want you to go, now I've never pushed it any further than this. They'll grab a fresh branch and they'll snap it.
Yep.
And it'll sound like a 30-06 going off by your head. And when you hear that, that means it's time for you to go. If you push it past that and they start, shaking trees and ripping up trees and just start screaming their bloody mind out, I think you've gone too far. We give them a lot of respect. We don't go over the ridgeline. We believe that their over that ridgeline is their home, is their home ground. So we don't go up over the the ridge and down into the valley where we believe they're living, you know.
Yeah.
But when we're there and we do what we do to bring them in, they come right away. They come up. And first it may be just a scout up on top of the ridge looking down at us to see who's there, you know. And then if they recognize us, maybe more of them will come, you know, because they know they're going to get like a trinket or something, you know.
Yep.
But we don't disrespect them. We don't do anything that would, you know, push them beyond their capabilities. You know what I mean? I would never let it get to the point where, you know, the creature had to rip a tree out of the ground and throw it at me before I left. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. You know, that's just going too far. You know.
I caught that on recorder at my area. I left the recorder up there at the Gift Rock in one night, and that night about 2:00 in the morning, all you heard is this crack right next to the Gift Rock. I mean, snap on a recorder, and he wasn't happy because he didn't want to come into the Gift Rock because the recorder's sitting right on top of the rock.
Well,
yeah.
You know, don't you find it amazing that these creatures know what the recorder is? They know what a camera is. They're very aware of
the same behaviors everywhere. The same,
Yeah.
like all the stuff that Al just talked about that area you don't go to.
Yeah.
I learned that on my own at Larry's. There's an area that we don't go to. We just that for some reason. Who knows how you know? Because I don't know how we know, but we know we're not allowed down there.
I think
we've never gone down there.
I think they,
Crazy.
you know, there's when we had one of our big encounters, a couple of them, you get this pressure that builds up, and the way I describe it is because I remember from your area mostly we spending summers up there. When you get a big storm coming in, there's this negative ions that are picking up, and you kind of feel the pressure build. Some people get it now in the sinuses when the storms come to get headaches and stuff. You start feeling that pressure. There is an intensity. It's like builds and builds and builds. And then you know that you should not be here. They're sending that out to you saying, look, you need to go. Before, because in case of point, when they threw that boulder or rock, whatever at me, these things don't miss. Their life depends on them being accurate in killing something. I mean, they could take a rock and, I mean, they're perfect. So, you know, it's just, there's something that they send out to all of us and saying, look, you stay over there and you come over here, you're going to have a bigger problem, you know, and we just respect it.
Yeah. And the one time, Brian, we went out during the day and we went up to the sacred site. I was being drawn there. And Brian said, okay, don't go by yourself. I'll come with you. And we went up there, and I was being drawn up to the top of the ridge, someplace that I had never even thought about going up. But something was telling me to go there. And I don't know what I was expected to find. And that was the day we found the juvenile footprint, the baby footprint, remember? Yeah.
Oh, my God, that was great.
And I think the reason I was being drawn there is to find that footprint, you know what I mean? Otherwise, I would have never went up that ridge out of respect, you know? And we found the footprint. We took photographs of it. Said, thank you very much. We won't bother you anymore. And we left, you know? I felt after that, our day was done. That was what I was being drawn there to find. We found it. Now it's time to leave, you know?
It's very interesting. And I think this has happened to you, Chris, as well as us. I think these creatures, and I call them creatures because we don't know what they are at this point. I think they know who's good and who's bad and who's indifferent, you know, or whatever, are going to be a problem. And I think there's a rapport or relationship, just like Al said, you know, a scent, or when you go up they know it's you coming up to the rock. They know it's Larry, you know, and they know what your intent is. And I think there's some kind of connection or a bond that builds between you and specific the Sasquatch. And I can't put my finger on it there, but I think that it's like, okay, we're good. You know, it's kind of like that little relationship starting. It's the first date, like
right.
You know,
it's like you're courting.
yeah.
It's literally like dating. It's like,
yeah.
I'm gonna leave this string here for you, and you're gonna leave me a dead squirrel. Thank you. You know,
you're gonna leave me a ripped off coyote leg because you haven't been here in a couple months.
Well, it's very interesting. You know, when we got the moles, That's a huge statement. That's food.
That was crazy. I've never seen that before. That was
But
crazy.
you got to understand something. They can't. Well, they can go to the supermarket, whatever they want. But the fact is, they're giving up a kill to give it to you. That's a huge honor. And when that, the reverse of that is when you had that turtle with feathers in it. And I think there was something Native American. I forgot I was talking about. It was called. I think it was called turtle feather. There is a symbolism to this, and I think it's a respect symbolism. Like, I respect you as what you are. You're respecting me, and there's a mutual. It's like, we're cool right now,
Right.
and that's why we do what we do, and that's why we create protocols. Look, I can only speak for myself, and I can't even speak for Al. I think you and I and Chris do it the right way. There are other people that do it the right way too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Well, like where the photo you just showed with the turtle with the feathers and all that stuff. There's a pathway there, okay, that leads up to the mountain, and that's where I found that footprint. But one day I came there, and there was a log there. And I was like, okay, well, maybe they don't want me going up there. And that was the same time I went up there and I took all those pictures and I caught a picture of it. Right. And then the next day, there was like another log, like, well, not the next day, but, weeks later, there was another log there. Now there was 2 logs there, and I was like, okay, well, I wasn't going to go past it after the first one. I'm sure as hell not going to go past it after the second one. But then those logs became, because originally I was just tying string to the branches, and then those logs became our gifting site. And I'll tell you one story that totally blew my mind. There was at one point a little yellow star, like a child's toy, that was left on the log, right? And I forgot what I did, but I said, okay. I said, thank you for the gift. I took it, and then I brought it back, and I put it there like a week later. And then I went back a week later, and it was gone. And I was like, wow, they took it back. But then I said, wait a minute, let me see. And I moved those logs, which was not an easy thing to do because they're like, 6-7 feet long, and they're this thick. I moved those logs, and they hid that little yellow star between the 2 logs. But I found it and I put it back on top,
It's like they're testing us like we're doing to them.
Right. Yeah, it's little tiny things that they do. They want you, if you notice those tiny things, I think you're in.
Yeah.
I think you're in. It's a little
either that or there's Bigfoot's having their own live stream right now going, so these humans came over and we put the star on.
All right. Does anybody got any questions for these guys? Please, in all caps.
All caps.
I just want to say thanks, you guys. I always learn a lot when you guys come into the show. We could talk for hours and hours.
Without a doubt.
But
yep.
Let's see here.
Another thing I suggest, if you're gonna, while you're waiting for any questions, if you're gonna go out, I highly recommend going on. I prefer to buy in a store because I want to support retail outlets versus Amazon technically. But there's not that many available that I know of local stores. But what I started using is a Bavlov body camera. They last for like 82 hours. They do night vision and sound. And I only have one in the front right now, but we're working on getting front and back. And the reason why I like the back is these creatures like to sneak up on you. They like to watch you too. So you never know what you're going to catch, when they don't think you're looking. So I highly recommend, if you're going to go out, it's great. You click the body camera on, you turn it on, and you let loose. Just remember that if anyone's urinating in the woods, just to turn the camera away. I made that mistake once for somebody, and you got to go through that footage. And
and I got a couple of GoPros I use, but you have to have extra batteries because the batteries only last like 2 hours or whatever. So I take a ton of batteries with me as well. But again, we try to do front and back.
Right. And a smell, yes, we have. I've encountered that disgusting. It's kind of like a little bit. Well, sometimes it's like definitely skunky or musky, And a couple occasions I've encountered like almost like a rotten it's not a pleasing smell. It's more than one can bear. I mean, it'll really like, whoa, I got to get out of here. And I don't know if that's their hormones kicking in, or they're putting that scent out there, or a message saying you need to leave. And I've also gotten like it's like I said before, when you smell it when it's going to rain, there's a certain smell to it that's charged, or static electricity, if you've ever had that. I've gotten that smell on some investigations. Then we have an experience or something, or a rock throw or a knock. So that's for me personally.
Yes, and I've experienced that smell too. I mean, it's very hard to describe that smell. It's such like a couple of times I smelled it, once down in Florida and once up here in New York, where it was so strong, so pungent that it actually burnt your eyes.
Yeah.
Or even the nose hairs inside your nose would actually feel like they're on fire as well. And then as soon as it comes, it's gone. Boom.
Yeah.
Just like that. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
like
yeah,
instantaneous.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's,
I mean,
very, and you don't know if you just crossed into something, or, they just threw something your way to slow you down or whatever, but when you smell it, you will stop in your tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a couple, only very, very few times where you get that gag reflex. It's like, okay, I gotta just give me a minute here, because it's so overpowering. It's almost like there's a weight to it as well. It's really weird. But yeah, the fact
it's the hardest smell to describe too.
Yeah.
But it's gone. It's gone, and like it's like it's gone in 5. You think it's like a defense mechanism? Maybe it's like a spray or something, or they excrete it through their pores or something.
I think so. I think it's something to do with their hormones. Absolutely.
I mean, I know skunks, from being in your area. Some of them have that scent, and then some of them will, if they get to an area where there's people around, they kind of let a little bit of it fly. It's not too potent. Like, look, there's something here. Oh, that doesn't smell good. And other animals know what they're dealing with, as far as that's concerned. But also, maybe they're using it. It's a musk type of thing. When you get into like the juvenile Sasquatch, or the teenagers, as I like to say, they probably have their hormones raging, and they may be emitting these pheromones, to try to, woo a mate or something. So who knows what's going on with that?
Yeah, but you know what? I'll be honest. It's only happened to me on two, 3 occasions, and it's always like the first time I'm in the area. Right. Once I get established in the area and they know my scent, I never have that experience again. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but that's just the way it works out with me.
We have a little interruption here. It's almost bedtime, and
okay,
you got it.
Maria wants to come down and draw the name for the tumbler.
Okay,
let's do it.
Say hi to everybody. You don't know everybody.
Hi, everybody out there in Bigfoot world. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Maria.
Hey, Maria.
All right, so we got everybody's names in this my little Buddha bowl here, the little sound bowl, and just gonna draw the name now.
Not looking. I get one. Michael Nelson Jr.
Michael
Nice.
Jr. is the winner of the tumbler. All right. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Drink in
Great
the
show,
squat.
guys. Take care. Nice
Good
meeting
night.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I'll be up in your neck of the woods on Saturday.
Grandbaby was supposed to come too, but
Bedtime.
he won't get off the couch because he's watching his favorite show right now. Well, congratulations, Michael, on the win. And this week's is another tumbler.
There you go.
Camo Discover Sasquatch tumbler, or whatever they call them, water. They're stainless steel. These are nice. They're not cheap prizes. So leave a comment in the comment section, and you'll be entered to try and win in 2 weeks. We will have Nate Rudd from WIDS with us. He's
Nate's
out
a great guy.
Yeah, Nate's a good guy, and he'll be here in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was chatting to Nate a couple of weeks ago. We were on a SOR together. He's a great guy. Al, we're gonna have him on. I'm dragging you in, by the way. I volunteer him for everything.
Yeah, Nate's a big SOR fan. He's a big
yeah, but he's also great. You know, he does a lot of great research and stuff.
Yeah. Yep. So he'll be in 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Cool.
So let's see. I think the police car hit the big total car. We got a comment here for Al. See if I can get it on here. Come on. When the police,
that's the Florida one. Yeah, that's the Florida skunk ape one. Yeah. I just touched on that in bits and pieces tonight. It's a long story. I mean, it's an amazing experience, and I mean, maybe one night I'll come back and we'll just.
We're definitely gonna keep
shoot the shit, and I'll tell you about it.
We're definitely gonna keep this relationship open, and we're gonna, we got stuff we're going to do this summer, and hopefully get you guys down here in the month of September when I know they're here all the time. And I think the one at my area now has its mate. Remember how I was telling you last year I had the 3 and then the 2 disappeared and then there was just 1 left. Well, we were followed by 2 on Saturday. So I'm thinking that he picked up his mate. I have no way of proving that, but that's just what we think. So we're going to camp there.
Well, the way you're going to prove it is, and let's consider maybe it's a same gestation. Maybe you get baby prints soon. You know, smaller prints.
Well, I got the pheromone chips, and I'm going to try. I got a little experiment we're going to try with those and see what happens.
Right.
Be careful with those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're going to attract.
I know. Well, I'm hoping I'm hoping it's Junior that knows me. That's what I'm hoping for.
Right. I mean, you got a lot of bear in the town, even though they're
these
black bear.
Yeah, have you ever smelt the pheromone chips? Oh my God, they are the nastiest thing you've ever smelt in your life. Nasty.
Yeah.
Worse than the smell that you smell when you're. It leaves a taste on your tongue.
Ooh.
That's how nasty they are. So we're going to hang one out in a tree, and we made a little Bigfoot guy that we're going to hang in the tree, and we're going to let the wind move him. So it looks like he's moving. And then we're going to set cameras up and a plot watcher down low. So we're going to the cameras up aren't going to be filming. The plot watchers are going to keep on taking pictures every 5 seconds. And then we're going to see what happens. So
very interesting.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Good luck with that. Absolutely.
Can't wait to see the results.
So, I think that's about it. Everybody said thank you so much, and they love the show. We appreciate all you guys, and
please,
I
always appreciate people. You know, I can't thank you enough for having us on, and I appreciate everybody that listens. And you know, it's an honor to be asked to be on a program. It's an honor to tell your experience. So I'm not very vain like that. I live with 3 women, and they put me in my place. so I know exactly what it is.
It's always a pleasure to be asked, and and I consider you a friend. So you know what I mean. So this is like just hanging out with a good friend. And
it was a great show. It was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right, so I'm gonna say goodbye to these guys, and I'll talk to you guys in about a couple minutes.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. All right, everybody. What a show. There's both sides to everything. There's 2 sides to every coin. There's 2 sides to everything. And these guys, like I said, 93 years of experience. Yes, Nana Anna, I will leave all their links in the description tomorrow morning once after this posts of all their channels. Yeah, they have a paranormal groups, and they're all over the map. I mean, Brian's a member of about 4,396 groups. So I don't know if I can link them all, but I'll get you to the main ones. He has a show called No Mo Boomy, and they're the Bronxville Paranormal Society. So I'll link them all in the description. But I love them guys. They've taught me a lot about the gifting, and I still believe it's the most important thing. If you can get it going, you will learn tons and tons of things about them and how they move and what they like and when they're around. I want to thank my two moderators, Blue-Eyed Northern and Boots on the Ground Barb. They do a great job, and I couldn't do the show without them. So also, I thank you all very, very much for tuning in, as always, on a Tuesday night. Yeah, thank you for giving us some time over here at Discover Sasquatch, and we appreciate all you tuning in and watching. And as Larry says, get in the woods, people.